Have you ever noticed something strange about the word cow? People use it all the time, but almost nobody says male cow. Instead, we say bull. That raises a weird question. If females are called cows and males are called bulls, then why are there supposedly no male cows? It sounds like one of those random language mysteries hiding in plain sight. Most people grow up thinking cow means the entire animal species, whether it's male or female. But technically, that's not correct. In the world of cattle, words are surprisingly specific, and farmers have been using those distinctions for thousands of years. And once you start digging into it, you realize the English language has turned cattle terminology into a complete maze of cows, bulls, oxen, steers, heifers, and calves. So today we're going to untangle the confusion and answer the question, why aren't male cattle called cows? Right here, on History of Simple Things. The word cow is incredibly old. It comes from the Old English word ku, which traces even further back to Proto-Germanic and ancient Indo-European languages spoken thousands of years ago. Similar words appear across Europe. The German word Kuh, Dutch Kuh, and even Latin's bos, which influenced words like bovine. Originally, these words referred specifically to female cattle, especially mature females that had produced calves. That meaning stayed remarkably consistent over centuries. Meanwhile, male cattle developed their own separate terms. The word bull also comes from ancient Germanic roots and has long been associated with strength, aggression, and masculinity. Even in ancient farming societies, people needed different names because male and female cattle served different purposes. Back then, cattle were among the most valuable animals a family could own. They provided milk, labor, leather, fertilizer, and eventually meat. Since each animal had a specific role, precise terminology mattered a lot more than it does today. So from the very beginning, cow was never meant to describe all cattle equally. It referred to females. Here's the biggest source of confusion. People often use cow as if it means the entire species, but the actual species is called cattle. A cow is specifically an adult female cattle that has usually given birth to at least one calf. A male cattle is called a bull. A young female that hasn't had a calf yet is called a heifer. A castrated male raised for labor or meat is often called a steer or an ox, depending on age and purpose, and baby cattle are calves. So technically saying male cow is kind of like saying male hen. It clashes with the definition of the word itself. But because most people outside farming communities rarely use the word cattle in everyday conversation, cow became the casual catch-all term. Over time, people started calling almost every large bovine animal a cow, even if it wasn't biologically accurate. That's why cartoons, movies, and even some textbooks sometimes casually refer to bulls as cows. Language drifted away from technical accuracy. Male cattle behave very differently from females, especially once they mature. Bulls are larger, heavier, more muscular, and often much more aggressive. On average, bulls can weigh hundreds of kilograms more than cows. Historically, farmers had good reason to distinguish them clearly. A single bull could breed with many cows, making him extremely valuable in agriculture. Bulls were also more dangerous to handle. Even today, bulls are considered among the most unpredictable farm animals. A calm-looking bull can charge without warning, which is why experienced cattle handlers treat them very carefully. Because their role was so distinct, The separate word bull stuck strongly in everyday language. In contrast, female cattle became more associated with milk production and caregiving, reinforcing the separate identity of the cow. So the division wasn't random grammar. It reflected real differences in behavior, economics, and farming life. Once you notice it, English does this with many animals. A male goose is called a gander. A male swan is called a cob. A male horse is a stallion. A female horse is a mare. A male chicken is a rooster. A female chicken is a hen. English inherited many of these words from farming cultures where people interacted with livestock every single day. Specific names made communication faster and clearer. Imagine trying to run a medieval farm while vaguely saying, "the male cattle over there." It was easier to just say bull. Over centuries, those distinctions became deeply embedded in the language. So, why do people still say cow for everything? The answer is simple: convenience. Most modern people don't work with livestock anymore. In cities and suburbs, people rarely need technical farming vocabulary, so cow gradually became shorthand for all cattle in casual speech. If someone points at a bull in a field and says, "Look at that cow," nobody usually corrects them unless they grew up around farms. The same thing happens with other animals, too. Many people call all tortoises turtles or all large apes monkeys, even though those terms aren't scientifically accurate. Language often prioritizes simplicity over precision. Ironically, farmers and ranchers still maintain the older distinctions because they actually matter in livestock management. Whether an animal is a bull, steer, heifer, or cow changes how it's handled, fed, bred, and sold. So while everyday English blurred the categories, agriculture never really did. So, are there really no male cows? Technically, yes. A cow is specifically an adult female cattle. Male cattle are bulls, while other terms like steer and ox describe males with different roles. But thanks to everyday language, many people now use cow as a general label for the whole species, even though it isn't biologically precise. And honestly, that's part of what makes language fascinating. Words evolve based on how people actually use them, not just on strict definitions. Somewhere along the line, cow stopped being just a farming term and became a cultural shortcut. So the next time you see a giant horned bull in a field, you can impress somebody by pointing out that it's technically not a cow at all. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.